Hey everyone, welcome back to the Difference Maker podcast. Your hosts Matt and Chris Calderoni. It's been a little bit, had some adjustments we had to do before we could come back to another kind of just one-on-one talk that we've been having, but lots of good stuff that's been going on lately. Super excited to kind of be back and go through different topics with you guys because it's interesting. Like we had one of the big things to kind of kick it off. Larry Markkinen, our client that we've had now for the last quite a few years here, I would say about 3, just got rated NBA's most, or voted, I should say, NBA's most improved player, which is an absolute honor.
It's huge.
Of doing that. Yeah, that's a 3 years in the making.
Yeah.
That he worked for that. I think people don't realize too sometimes how long things take to brew and get to where they are. And I think that's something that seeing just how Lowry transformed himself and took ownership and wanted to become this individual and decided and just worked at it. I think it's admirable. And it's, I think it's something that a lot of athletes lack, I would say sometimes, is the patience to see something through. I think that's one of the most important.
The different teams, different experiences that he's had, started in Chicago and then went
to Cleveland and Utah. Yeah. And good. Hey, you know what? Frig, man, that goes to show to how important it is to learn how to communicate with your people to get the most out of them. Right? Because it's you look at Lowry, he was a young kid, untapped potential, took a couple years to get to where he is, but finally found a coach in Utah who was really able to tap into that, and kudos to the staff there. But it's the amount of work they put in to understand him and to realize his past experiences and see where he can best be utilized. I think that was one of the most important things that they did. And I think that goes to show, you had an all-star on your hands. That was literally, it's not like he did 2 years in Utah or something. That was a year in Utah of coaching a guy the right way.
Right.
And watching him explode to where he had to get to.
Right.
And it's it's not just a big year. This is a career kickstarter.
Yeah, for sure. And even the year that he had, it was actually quite dominant.
Yeah,
for the team that he was on and everything, right? So, even that, where is he now? He's in
now in Finland.
Now he's in Finland, doing all that, right? So,
all the reports you can see online too that he's in the military, having to serve, right? And that also goes to show how humble a guy like him is, and that really is Lowry.
Mm-hmm.
He's easy, right? He works hard. He wants the best for his people and genuinely wants the best for his people. And he goes out there and he does it.
And you were talking about in Utah, coach had to understand him.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that? Just his personality or his play style or surrounding him with the right people? What do you
I think all that. I think what's interesting about it is, and we see this in sports culture, and I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm saying this is sports culture.
Yeah.
You see guys that are quieter sometimes and maybe, a little less outgoing and more introverted and whatever. And it's they just don't gel with the team. It's no, that's just, they need to come out of their shell a bit. And sometimes you need to take some time to do that.
Right. And you're not saying that that's what happened.
No.
It's just,
but it's
the culture of everything.
You need to learn how to coach around that. And what I am saying though is with Lowry, it's he's an individual that does everything in his power to give back to people, right? And that's genuinely him. That's genuinely his wife. That's the Markkinen family. They're good people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes, we talk about this a lot with the players, not just with Lowry, but any player we work with. These coaches come in with these systems, and systems are important. I'm not questioning that. But what I am saying is sometimes you have to realize the system is to be tailored to the individuals you have.
For sure.
Right? And it's if you don't, that's when things can you have an all-star on your hands who never comes through because maybe your system didn't work. Maybe it wasn't in the best place for this individual. So taking the time to learn your people and understand them and see where they can fit best and genuinely finding a place that they can fit best instead of just like what we see in the sports world a lot, especially in soccer, where it's like, well, they're a midfielder, right? It's like, well, we can just throw him anywhere in the mid and he'll find a way. It's like, no, it doesn't really work that way. So taking the time to really, for coaches, getting to know your players and formulating something that will fit to these guys, I think it's important. It's very important.
Yeah, I think possibly just like anybody, coaches are humans, right? Yeah. So when guys come in and girls come in with a system of the work that they put in all summer and the off season, they develop a system based on what they believe is proper for the team. Just like even some of the things that we go through as coaches as well. When it doesn't work initially, I think, people can get a little bit defensive and then they look to say, okay,
blame game.
At first, is it that person that's not working, or is it, and then eventually it comes back to, the system. And, potentially, well, I think personally, as a coach and as someone that watches a lot of soccer, you don't always have the players that you want. So coming in with the system, if you don't know your players or if you don't know who you have on your team, that's on you, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, like Lowry had a fantastic year, and I think
took ownership.
Utah is going to be pretty.
I think they're going to build now.
Interesting to watch in the next little bit.
Yeah, and I think you got a coach there too who really puts time into being one with his players, and I think that's important, really important. So, anyways, because of the season that it is, pivoting topics a little bit, it is playoff season, right, for at least hockey and basketball. And it's one of the most interesting times where we see so many alibis coming out of different areas, from blaming the refs to team losing to coaches not handling pressure to players not pressure and off field or court or ice antics and whatever. And really what we want to bring in this episode, I think, is some clarity, right, on like this whole thing behind playoff mindset. It's such a great marketing play. It is, right? Like, it's such a great marketing play because it's like, in the playoffs, all of a sudden the mindset changes. Now, am I saying that intensity and aggression doesn't change? No, I do think that players that didn't bring it before, bring it. What I will say, though, is like, if you're a guy or gal who's going from the start of the year at one pace in one direction with one, real focus and attitude, it really doesn't need to change that much in playoffs. Right. If you were somebody that slacked in the season, that's a different animal. And I think what people don't realize is you see those guys who did have a lot more to give in the season, and then all of a sudden it becomes playoffs and it's like, oh my God, I can't slack anymore because I will be replaced tomorrow night, where in the season it's 82 games or 86 or however long, right?
Then it becomes this is the game changer.
Exactly.
When they could have been doing that the entire year. Where it's not to say that, it's not like, over the course of the season, you obviously develop as a player, you get more comfortable and confident in your role. And some guys come into playoffs on a hot streak and they just ride it until the end of their season, whenever that is. So there's obviously different things, but I'm curious to ask you is, for you, how would you define a playoff intensity or mindset, I guess? Because to me, it does change. To me, like I'll tell you straight up, I think a playoff mindset or intensity for me, it's nothing different that you're doing, but it's just the fact, or not the fact, the commitment to be that first person to the ball or the first person to the puck. Or if you're not necessarily someone that's overly aggressive going into, one-on-one battles or anything like that, that kind of that comes into play in the playoffs for you, because it's first to 4 games or first to 3 games or whatever the case may be. So it's like that stuff needs to be there. To me, that's all that is on top of what you're currently doing. So that added bit of intensity or that added bit of effort or that added bit of first step, if you will.
You know what? I'll say it like this. I think a lot of what changes actually is the environment, right? where it's like, so you look at some of these fantastic athletes. An example I'll use for the hockey world is Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid's been that straight line all year. Right? Like where he's just heads down, he's focused, and he goes. I think what people don't realize is it's more the environment that changes than anything. Where, you know, I do, obviously your environment shapes your mentality.
Right.
And I think what we have to understand is like the entire level gets raised in playoffs. And it's not because players all of a sudden get better. It's because players all of a sudden get more intense. And what they weren't bringing in the season, they start bringing now. And where players weren't usually, for example, in hockey, hitting, they're hitting now when they could have the whole time. In basketball, where they weren't really being aggressive, they're being aggressive now, right? That's just what happens, in my opinion. And I believe it's more the environment that impacts the mindset and the expectation of the fans and the expectation of the coaches and the organizations more than it is anything else.
See, that's where I think the coach of a team really comes through.
Yeah.
Like the character of the coach, and because players are going to, obviously in the playoffs, like you've done everything all season, there's no surprises. You know the team that you're playing against. There's not any real new systems that you're going to use. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
Players will not coach themselves, but they'll hold each other accountable, right? I think as a coach, a head coach anyways, or assistant or whoever is, I think their role in the playoffs is to maintain when the players and the leaders on the team kind of get maybe too emotional, that you are that straight line. You know what I mean? Like you are that calming. If they turn around and see you losing your mind, they're going to lose their mind. If they turn around and see you, you know, staying calm and collected and thoughtful, I think that's going to
And this is where I have to say too, like this is why I don't get how coaches can't just see that sometimes. Right? Where it's like, as a coach, you're almost like the mitigator.
Well, I don't think that they can't see it. I think they know it's there.
I think they get lost.
I think 100%. Like the environment of home ice advantage or playing at home or anything like that, or even away. There's one call that goes against you in the last 5 minutes of the game, and of course you're going to get who doesn't. But I think it's those coaches in the moment that can really dial it back and just have that understanding of, hold on, it's one goal, it's one penalty, it's one free throw, whatever the case may be. We can get past this and just move forward, you know?
Well, and that's the thing too. Like I think sometimes coaches also forget how much their subtle little pieces of body language really impact the player.
Yeah.
Right? Like that, I understand everybody's human and everybody breaks, but that whole thing that we've seen across this last kind of playoffs, especially in the NHL, like when they pan in on a coach and you see them throw their hands up or their head back and roll their eyes, players feel that.
For sure.
Right? And then all of a sudden it starts to dribble down, and then it's like, oh my God, the leader is freaking out. And I don't care what anybody says. Even the top players need a leader.
100%.
I don't care what anybody says, right? And it's like, if you're dealing with these individuals making millions of dollars a year, or even if you're not and you're on your way up to that, and you're dealing with players who have the potential to do so or the dream, you need to realize their emotions are very high. Very, very, very high. And it's like, as a coach, especially in playoffs, your role is more importantly to be the mitigator of emotions than anything else. You're a catalyst either for good or for bad.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Right? My girlfriend, she's a kindergarten teacher. And one of the things that she needs to do is she has to keep her class accountable every single day to, if you guys make a mess, you pick it up. If you do this, you pick it up. And it's at the school that she's teaching, one teacher does that, one does that. One teacher doesn't do that, and she does that. And you can see the difference in the two classes from the beginning of the year till now. One's chaotic and one has as calm as a kindergarten class can be. Yeah. It is. So I look at that and I say, as a coach, I think all of those emotions come out in those players, especially the players that are driven and that can handle themselves. What happens when they lose it?
Yeah.
Because if you have all these players looking up to this one individual, when that person loses it, who's going to be the one to calm them down? If you've already released that behind them on the bench, how are you going to be able to do that?
Well, and this is where though, like, so if you're, let's talk highest level. If you're a coach who has the opportunity and has the privilege to be able to leverage media, you need to use that as a tool, right? Negativity is a tool,
right?
Positivity is a tool. Freaking out on the team at intermission is a tool. All of these are tools. What your main focus is, though, and you got to be able to know, obviously, when to pull into your toolbox. Your main focus, though, as a coach, is keeping everybody in the right direction of the vision that you have for that game, that playoffs, that series, whatever you want to call it. So, for example, if I'm coaching a team and I'm standing behind the bench, yes, I need to be able to do the tactics and make sure my players are ready and so on. But when it comes to game time, let's specifically just talk about game time, even practices. Your overall focus should be to get them just to that promised land, right? Where I see coaches make big mistakes, and this is completely on the mental side and why I fully believe that coaches need a coach, is when the coaches start to make it all about themselves, right? I'll say it now. One of the biggest downfalls for the Toronto Raptors, in my opinion, with Nick Nurse, was it became all about the Nick Nurse show, right? And that's I know from knowing people who know the players, it became a case of, well, is he bigger than the team?
In a market like
Toronto,
of course.
Well,
it has
think about it.
Possibility.
Well,
right?
and I'm not saying coaches can't do this. Like, it's very important as a coach to build your brand.
Yeah,
but like then Nick Nurse starts wearing Nick Nurse apparel and so on. And here's the thing: he gave us very good years here in Toronto. He did, and you can't just look at one season, in my opinion, as like the epitome of everything and whatever. And he did go through the rough time with COVID, but he brought a championship team here. However, I will say, I think one of the most important characteristics for a coach is to constantly be able to check in with yourself of where you currently are. Because I see this a lot in soccer. I see this a lot in professional soccer, in the Premier League, in any league, I should say, actually, where the humble coaches and the ones that remain in check with themselves are the ones that can carry teams to the promised land. It's the ones that all of a sudden become a little too much about them. Like Carlo Ancelotti, fantastic at making it about the team. He's won a lot. He's a serial winner, but it's never about Ancelotti. It's about the team. Pep Guardiola. Some would say to a fault sometimes it's too much about Pep, but I will say from seeing that guy and seeing how he operates, Pep is fantastic at being able to show he was one of the players. An example of somebody who maybe goes off the deep end sometimes is Antonio Conte.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And it's like, my point is, though, the moment that these coaches start to forget their job is to bring their team to the promised land, and that's what makes them good, that's when things start to kind of unravel. And it becomes dangerous, right? Like, if like coaches have to understand, like, your body language, like I was saying, it's a tool. And you have to be good at understanding when to use those tools. Like, you can't throw your hands up when you go down 1-0 in the first period. If that's the case, in the first 10 minutes of the game, you start throwing your hands up, then the whole tone of the team is set.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
And it's like, it becomes awkward, man.
It becomes awkward. You make yourself the villain when you didn't need to. Like, you're already playing against one in the team's eyes. You're playing against one team. Why are you creating now an offshoot of someone within the dressing room?
Well, and I'll say this too, because obviously the predominant amount of our clients are high-performing business people and athletes, right? Pro athletes. Then we've got some coaches that come through our door as well, a handful each year. And doing the work with the coaches is, I would say, some of the most impactful stuff we can do for the team, because so many coaches come through the program and out when they're done it after, it's like, man, like that, I didn't realize how much that can offset a player, right? Like, I know from having our convos with players, and this is what coaches maybe don't realize. Like, players are watching you.
Mm-hmm.
Players are watching everything that you do. I don't care what anybody says. Even if the player has the highest amount of ego, they might not show that they listen to you, but they're watching everything, man. Every little thing, like to a point that we had one individual we work with at the pro level, and he was talking about how it's like, man, coach was on the whiteboard doing his thing, and I saw him get annoyed with a question. Like, I could just see in his in the way he reflected his body language towards that question. He goes, everybody could just see he was just like off.
It was just turned off.
Yeah, like just like,
how don't you know this?
And he goes, Matt, you could look around the room and see. And unfortunately, this team isn't a winning team. But he goes, you could look around the room and see, like, guys were propped up and ready. And the moment that happened, he goes, guys almost shied away. And you could tell there were more questions, and players had questions, and they didn't ask them. And he's like, you could just see it. You could feel it. And I don't care what anybody says. If you're a coach, you have to be really good with your intuition. Yeah. And I'm not saying intuition tactically. Forget about that. Like, all this crap about tactics, listen, tactics, again, I'll give you credit. They're important to a limit. The most important thing, though, you can have the most perfect tactics in the world. If you have a player and their vibe is off and their energy is off and their ability to focus is off and they're pissed and they're annoyed and they're frustrated and they don't want to work hard and whatever, they're not going to work in your systems.
Yeah.
Your tactics are nil. They don't matter. Having an intuition, though, of like the intuition of walking up to a player in the middle of a game and putting your hand on their shoulder and saying, hey, you're good. Relax. That's the intuition I'm talking about. Walking up to a player after he misses a couple shots or she misses a couple shots and saying, hey, you know what? Scrap it. Don't worry about that. Let's break you for 20 seconds here and you're going to go back on and you're going to do it. That's game changing. That's what people remember, how you make them feel more than they remember what you get them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. You make somebody feel like $1 million as a coach in the middle of a game. I mean, let's talk straight for a sec. You practice your tactics in practice, do you not?
The whole season.
Whole season. It's all you're doing. Tactics, tactic. Okay, great. In a game, if you're still having to freak out about your tactics and your players don't know them, and you're not just focused on making sure your players are feeling absolutely outstanding about themselves in a game,
you lose that game.
You wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? It's like we say to our players throughout the week. Take the week, work on the parts of your game you know you're going to use in the game. In a game, all you need to make sure you're doing is going back to your focuses. You're energetic, you're excited, and you're sure of yourself. The sureness comes from during the week. The excitement comes from your ritual or a system before a game.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not like, especially the players that we work with some talented individuals.
Yeah. Not just pros either.
No, junior all the way up. They are, to be in the position that they're in, they're skilled players.
Yep.
They have everything at their fingertips. Oftentimes, especially in games, it's just their own lack of belief,
yes,
or questioning of, am I doing the right thing for the team or this or that, when it's just like, you have everything. Like, you put yourself in this position even before you came working here with us. Like, you put yourself in this position. There's a reason you're on this team. You just kind of have to go do it and honestly have some fun.
Well, man, it's like we even say, though, like our philosophy here about people will say, so how do you change somebody? It's like very simple. Know who they want to become, remove either the beliefs or behaviors that hold them back. That's it. As a coach in the middle of a game, all you need to do is make sure that if there's a belief that comes up, because you got to think of a game, and this is my philosophy on when we work with coaches. When it comes to a mental side, it's like coaches are like, I need to know all my players down to a T. It's like, yeah, you need to know them. But in the middle of a game, you need to realize that there's going to be behaviors and beliefs that are constantly arising that potentially hold a player back, right? You need to see those beliefs and those behaviors, recognize them, and just remove them when you see it on a player. Player missed the net. Chances are, they're probably pissed off and frustrated. Go over to them after and refocus them. Hey, player A, chill out, relax. Or maybe you see a player who's going through it, let's say, when it comes to getting on their own case and their behavior is that they're self-defeating. Okay, go over to them, talk to them, move that out of the way. That's all this is. It's like, it doesn't have to be complex. because the way that we work with players is like during the week, build your certainty. Just be sure of yourself. Do your mental reps or visualizing, your film watching, your physical work. Make sure you're laser focused. Make sure your body's okay. Go. Practice. Work hard during the week so that way on game days you trust yourself.
Well, I have a very simple philosophy of that. Is like in each game that you play, because obviously you have not played that game before. Sure, there's going to be similar experiences that you go through in games past, but this is a completely new experience.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing. We can prepare your physical skills, your mentality, everything before going into that game, but you're going to hit a new experience.
Yeah.
You might come up against someone, maybe you're the biggest guy in the team, you're normally a physical player. You might come up against someone for the first time and they rock you. Absolutely rock you. Before you had that confidence, but now it's a new experience where you're not the biggest guy on the ice anymore. Yeah. And it's like, to your point, in game, as much as we can give the coaches that information on those individual players, I need to know my players, I need to know this, I need to know that. What's this new experience that they're facing? What do they need from you? And this is, like you said, from your own intuition. This is something of just being a human and saying, okay, this person just went through this. How can I bring them back to a state of where they were feeling before, when they were playing at their best, either in the first period, at the beginning of the game, even before the game, where they were just like, let's go.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's the management that a lot of people kind of overlook, you know, and especially in playoffs.
Well, so there's two things I'll hit on. First, you're bang on right. Like, it's just bringing people back to a state of trusting themselves.
Yeah.
That's all it is, first. Secondly, though, this is where the tool of foreshadowing really, really comes into play. Foreshadowing for coaches is by far, in my opinion, and we do this all the time on pregame calls with players.
Yeah.
It is the number one turn to tool we do, where it's like, well, what's foreshadowing? Well, it's where you go in there, and there's studies to prove it. I'll talk about it in a sec. But it's where you go in and be like, hey, brother, sister, here's what's going to be happening this game. They're going to come at us hard. The crowd's going to be loud. You're going to have so-and-so yelling at you. It's going to be uncomfortable. And you're probably going to have a really tough time moving forwards in this area. But I want you to know that's probably going to last for only a couple shifts tonight. A couple minutes, a couple whatever. I need you to have the patience tonight to get through that. And once you do, it's going to open up for you. That tool alone is crazy. And it completely defeats the false positivity, right? Which like a lot of people turn to in situations where it's like, okay, so it's going to go great tonight. It's going to be awesome. It's like, no, we call it here at Molliteum realistic optimism. Hey, here's the reality of what you're going to be facing. I know you can get through it because of the work you put in, right? And they did studies on this. They had opening chefs on the floor. They took a group of them. They said, okay, opening night, sorry for head chefs. One group they took and they're like, hey, look, here's the reality. It's going to be tough. There's going to be some things that happen, but I want you to know it's going to be okay. You have the skills to deal with it. Your first couple orders might not go perfectly. Don't worry about that. I need you to just worry about how the overall night goes and take it one dish at a time. Great. The next group, they're like, it's going to go fantastic tonight. You're so ready for this. You're going to crush this, blah, blah, blah. Like false motivation, right? The ones that they're like, hey, just be ready and understand this is what it is, had resoundingly better results than the ones who were like, oh, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. The ones that were going to be, oh, it's awesome. It's great. The ones that just threw false positivity into things, which it is a tool at times. But to do that before going into a competition is the worst thing that you could do.
I don't know. I think false positivity kind of takes away from the seriousness of a situation. Not seriousness. I think it takes away the like, it's like when people say, oh, it's just a game. It's like, it's not just a game though. Like, you've put in a lot of time and work. You've sacrificed your time and work to be here. You've committed to this for the people around you. And I think the false positivity puts a spin on it where it's like, yeah, but it's just a game, you know? What do you mean? Excuse my language, but fuck off. Yeah, it's just bullshit. A game. It's bullshit. Not, though.
Listen, people that sign up for this stuff and sign up for competition have to realize what they're stepping into. Right? Like, I'm not saying it's like war and it's crazy and it's terrible and blah, blah, blah. What I am saying, though, is like there's a reality you have to understand that if you're going to play at a certain level, this is what you're going into. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's not ideal. It's not always going to go your way. It happens.
And there is a point where, okay, you for sure you play to have fun, but you also...
Yeah, but know the time and place for that, man.
No. But not even that. But like, you're playing to accomplish something.
Yeah.
For sure in the, like, on the way there, it's fun. But like at the end of the day, you're playing to accomplish something that one you set out to do years ago, which now you have an opportunity to do it, which is fantastic. You now have a responsibility to those individuals that are on the team with you. And finally, you're under contract, so you're getting paid to do something. Last, sure, the fans. But at the same, like, all of it comes down to, yeah, you can have fun. If you want to have fun, you play in a league where you're there to have fun. If you're playing in a league where you've set out to legitimately accomplish something. Like in business, people don't just go into business to have fun.
No.
It's to accomplish something.
It's to accomplish
anyone that sets, like even going through school. For sure, it's not fun. You're paying to go there. You have homework, all that stuff. But like you've set out to accomplish something. You don't just go to university to party.
Well, man, and even to like, for the top individuals though, like the pros, they have fun at that level. The only time I've dealt with an individual who's not having fun in the moment and truly not enjoying themselves is when they're either in a situation where they're not working towards becoming a better version of themselves. And then all of a sudden when they get to competition, they don't enjoy it because they're simply just not at that level. Either they're unfit, they're unsure, whatever it might be. Or number two, where they're genuinely in a situation where they might have overestimated what they're potentially able to do with that individual. So I've seen players who want to bet on themselves before, which I totally am for, but have thrown themselves into a situation where a general manager might tell them, hey, just letting you know you're battling for a bottom spot consistently. And it's like, well, I'm going to go to that situation instead and I'm going to battle. I'm going to work hard. But it's like, you were told that's what it was going to be like from the start. You were told this would be an in and out of the lineup year. You were told that this would be a short leash kind of a year, but you went in it anyways. That's, of course, when it doesn't become fun because it's like, what can you really do about that sometimes?
Right.
Right. So it's like, I don't know.
I think fun comes from being with the teammates. I think fun is when, like, you can not mess around at practice, but in between the like stuff like that. I think the game part is when you accomplish something, but like when the team comes together to work to, you know, all the little storylines on the ice or the field or whatever, like this guy's battling this guy, this one's doing this, they overcome that shit and then all of a sudden win a game. Mm-hmm. And like, I think that's the sense of, that's way more than fun. It's all the fun afterwards when you get to enjoy it with your teammates once you're off the ice or done that game. But the game itself, it's like, I mean, that sense of accomplishment, that's what people chase.
Yeah. And I also think too, people mix up the word fun for enjoyment.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not a matter of going in there, it's always going to be fun. No, it's always going to be like, you find enjoyment. Like, I know there's times you don't enjoy yourself and don't enjoy what you have to do. But there's a difference between going there with the expectation that everything's going to be fun. You want to have fun, go do something you genuinely like, that you know for 150% you're gonna be getting that fun out of it. For the enjoyment stuff, you have to understand enjoyment comes, like you said, from this combination of things, from knowing you can handle it, from knowing you prepared, from working towards accomplishing. That's enjoyment. That's when you're in your element, something you care about. Fun you can go have if you have something that lights you up and you just go do it.
I don't know. Enjoyment, right? Yeah. Enjoyment is you played a full season. You went through a crazy final playoff tournament, whatever it is. You're like, everyone's just busted from the entire tournament and stuff. And it's not even that you're playing on skill in the last couple games. It's just work and you're slogging through it. And it's like afterwards you win and it's done and you just sit there and it's like, damn.
Yeah.
Like that was legit. You know, no one can take that from people. And I think that's what we all chase as athletes and as high performers, is that sense of accomplishment at the end where it's like, no one will be in the spot that we got to. Like, this was ours. You know what I mean? Like, this was ours. All the storylines that came up to it at the end of everything, we own that. And I think that has a lot more, like, fun is go find a something to do where it's just a game and it's just for you. Yeah. That have fun there. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I mean, the business that we're in and who we work with, like, that's
yeah, but and listen for a sec too, though. Like, I come to work every day. We don't win every day.
No.
We don't win every day. There's losses. But I enjoy what I'm doing every day. Okay? I have fun on Sundays, Saturday nights and Sundays. So not fun like going to a bar, getting plastered, but like fun like, oh, I like watching, for example, soccer games. We go to watch Toronto FC. That's fun for me. The atmosphere is fun. Getting a piece of food from the stadium before the game is fun. Like, street meat is fun. Like, the experience for me, that's fun. I'm going to prioritize fun in my week. Okay? Sundays. It's fun for me to go see family. So I prioritize that on my Sundays. Fun is watching Juventus. I prioritize that on my weekend. My point is, though, I'm prioritizing specific things to have fun. Do I expect to come to work every day and things will always be fun? No. Is the net positive, though, enjoyable for me each week? Yeah, it is. It is. I enjoy what I'm doing every single day. I enjoy, as much as it might suck in the moment, I enjoy the struggle to figure out problems and move forwards. I enjoy when our players do well. I enjoy when the company grows. As much as it's tough, I don't like getting rejected when we're trying to sell somebody, but I do enjoy going through the process and finding out how we can make it better. I enjoy that, right? But I prioritize fun outside of it. And I think this is where a lot of people get it wrong, especially high performers. It's not about always having fun in your performance. You should be stepping away to have fun, to recharge yourself and get back to it. And if you're not doing that on a daily, weekly basis, I have fun on a daily basis, right? Like, stupid as it might sound, I prioritize going for a walk with my wife and my 2 dogs after dinner. Why? It's fun. It's fun to see my dogs do, crazy things. It's fun to go talk and walk with my wife. It's fun. It's fun to go walk to the local cupcake store and come back. That's fun for me. I enjoy that. I really like to do that. That's fun. I have fun with it. I go prioritize having cigars and sushi with my friends because it's fun, right? But it's like, I understand, though, I need to make time for that. I understand that's not just going to hit me in the face during the day. During the day, I'm committed to the thing that I enjoy the most and passionately working at making it come to life. That's what I enjoy. Do I enjoy the no's? No. Right? And this is where I think people get it wrong in performance. You enjoy the overall of performance. You enjoy getting up and going to the rink and doing whatever. Yeah, there might be crap situations sometimes, but your net result, you enjoy.
Oh, yeah. And especially when things start to click for you.
Yeah.
That's like, again, that's a sense of accomplishment that no one can experience but you. And that's why, on the flip side of things, I hope, all the listeners, whether you're a coach, parent, player, whatever, I hope you all understand, like, we're talking about players that are junior and looking to go there. When you're a kid, that's why I think when you're a kid, you need...
Starts as fun.
It has to be as much fun as possible until you start to get to those levels, because that's when shit hits the fan.
Yeah. And it's like, even with that and on that subject, I always had fun playing Monopoly as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I had fun categorizing the money. I had fun being able to see where it was going. There's another game I played called Spin, Spend, Sell. I had fun with that. And that's really what transpired into me wanting to like start this, right? Is to have, well, subconsciously, like in the back. So it's like, my point is, though, yeah, you're right. It starts as fun, starts as something basic, and then it grows and it grows and it grows. And that's where it's like with all of this stuff, it's literally a matter of making sure, like, you understand fun is something you need to build for yourself first, and you can discover what you're passionate about through that. And I think that's where some people kind of get it wrong, where it's like, it's not always going to be fun. You will enjoy yourself though, but the point of fun, discover what you're passionate about. Like, understand that and move forwards with it. And that's where, you know, you look at it, the all-star titles and making it to the pro level and so on. It's because you enjoyed it. You're passionate about it. Yeah. That's what you do.
And that's where, coming back to I know we got away from it, but the topic of this episode, which is the playoff mindset and everything, it's adding that game to game. There's going to be different challenges, different experiences that everybody faces, but at the end of the day, it's who can maintain that sense of calm when things get hectic, and are you able to separate yourself from the game to resetting and coming back to a game fresh. Like right now, any team that's down 3-1 in a playoff series, it's literally, you can't think of, we have 3 games we got to win. It's literally just one shift at a time.
Yep. Win the shift.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. And that's why, like, when it comes to playoff mindset, a couple takeaways to take from this. 1, coaches understand you're a catalyst, right? Negativity is a tool. Positivity is a tool. Your one goal, though, keep everybody focused on where you want them to go. Mm-hmm. And just make sure you're removing those limiting beliefs and behaviors. I guess this can be point 2 of your players throughout the game. Point number 3, the week is all about building certainty, confidence, and systems. Point number 4, if you are a player, understand, work on yourself, keep yourself at a pace where you're doing the right things. But yes, the environment might pick up a bit, but if you've been working on yourself to get better each day throughout the year, you're going to be able to handle it. Yeah. It's really how it is.
You have the skills to get it done. Yeah. So just remember that. You have the skills to get it done. You just got to do it.
Anyways, if you guys need to work with us, want to work with us, have something that you want to do with us, please make sure you can check it out at our website, www.molliteum.com. Please like, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, click the notification bell. Share this podcast. It helps us grow and bring more value to you guys, obviously, too, and through our channel. And, of course, make sure to stay resilient. We'll see you all next week.